Good evening. Good evening, Georgi. Good evening, everybody. It is our Wednesday evening podcast, Geo-Politicus. Today, Meurmishvili is traveling. We wish her safe journey and hope next week podcast she will be with us. And today, Georgi will work one and two. Okay. Very interesting. An interesting week. Negotiations, right? Ukrainian and American negotiations, response from Russia, interview from Sergei Lavrov. If we have time, some kind of changes in one of breakaway regions, Abkhazia, Georgian breakaway regions. Okay, let's start. What do you think about this development?
Yeah, first of all, I would like to greet our distinguished audience and ask to hit the like and subscribe to this channel and stay with us and stay tuned to hear new information from us. So yeah, Tony, you're right. You just mentioned several points that are very important. There are many more
Sure.
developments on the global arena at the moment, but we picked up the most important that are interesting not only for us but for the rest of the world, and that actually are determining the future developments that have influence all over the planet. Yeah, meeting in Jeddah. Very positive, I would say, um, reactions on this meeting from both Ukrainian and US side. Both delegations are very happy to reach an agreement, sort of, because that also requires the other party also to agree on that in order
Is
to.
it agreement or it is some kind of
Well,
first step?
it's
Starting where
let's discuss this issue as well. Yeah, you are right. Basically, what we're talking about is that the United States and Ukraine discussed in a lengthy negotiation meeting the ceasefire, immediate ceasefire for 30 days, under the condition that the other party to the conflict, which is the Russian Federation, agrees unconditionally to subscribe to that. So it can be seen as a starting point for the serious political negotiations about the future of this war. Yeah. But what is important in this case, so it's not an agreement, it's just two sides, the United States and the Ukraine, to agree to offer the ceasefire to Russia. But what is important is that as a part of this negotiation, we see that the delivery of arms or military or security help from the United States were immediately released, which was stopped several days ago, as we remember, after certain events in the Oval Office, and also the information exchange in terms of intelligence was also restored from the United States to Ukraine, which is very, very important. So I would say that for this, these are the outcome. But what is important in this case, in my opinion, is that two sides, after this small Oval Office crisis, as I call it, came to terms, and they basically find the common ground, and they renegotiated certain points probably in their agenda, and they stay together in this regard, because some analysts, some observers, or diplomats call the United States in this case as a, let's say, mediator, but I would say United States' role in this case is just more than mediator. Why? Because United States is helping Ukraine with intelligence and with arms delivery. So mediator never does this for one
yeah,
or the other
yeah.
side in the conflict. So
Mediators shouldn't be involved so much in the
exactly.
case.
So I would call this as an alliance, and I would say that the United States is allied nation to Ukraine. Well, there are changes, of course, after the previous administration in terms of the relationship, and or the conditionalities also differs probably, but the alliance stays, which is very important for Ukraine, for the United States, and for Europe, for that
as
matter
well.
as
Yeah.
well. Yeah. So this is important. Now, what can happen? We know that the United States delegation just departed for Russia, and there is an expectation that this issue will be naturally discussed with Russia, and what can be done from that side of the conflict divide is unknown yet. But there are speculations, of course. Uh, as far as I understand, there were some statements from different level government officials, including the members of the parliament uh, in Moscow, that this kind of ceasefire arrangement is not is not suitable for Russia, is unacceptable, and that therefore uh, it will be rejected simply. Um, Similar information is spread all over internet, or let's say telegram channels that belong to so-called war correspondents that are, it's an open secret that there are, most of them at least, are connected to the special services of Russian Federation, or the Ministry of Defense, etc. So they also kind of quasi represent the Russian state policies or state institutions in a way. Of course, not always, but in a way. So so there is also a question that I would ask: why would President Putin bless this kind of agreement on the ceasefire?
One
Uh,
question is, Georgi, it is
yes.
such an opinion that Russia needs some kind of timeout. Is it so? Really needs or not?
Well, I think both sides need a timeout in terms of the military situation on the ground. But I would say that the opinion that I'm reading lately in the Russian media, on the Russian language media from different angles, I would say that there is a let's say strong views that now the military initiative on the ground, on the battlefield, belongs to Russia, and that's why Russia should push more and more to seize more territories, to break the defensive lines of Ukraine, and by this to basically to without negotiation to put Ukraine in a difficult position, so during the negotiations they can actually push even more politically over the negotiation table, and get more than they ought to. But um, the factor of the United States is very important here, because okay, they can say no to Ukraine, but they have to think, I think, twice whether they can say no to the United States. So there have to be a pretext for that, because in this case, the whole myth or whole declaration from the Russian Federation, uh, multiple declarations, I would say, that they are pro-peace and they never, opted for war, and they are a very peaceful country, etc., will be destroyed even on the declaration level, right?
Is it
Because
so important to destroy it?
it is somehow important in the international relations, of course, that when somebody comes to you with sort of a ceasefire in order to lay down the conditions for peaceful process, and then when somebody is rejecting this kind of ceasefire arrangement, it means that that party doesn't want to have a peace at all, right?
But
So
let,
and,
let,
and
let,
then
let,
and then with this comes the responsibilities, right?
let's see
So
this option. For example, Russia rejected ceasefire. Then
yes,
United States uh, in a
has
very
to act.
difficult
Has to,
situation because
no,
it not.
it's not in a difficult situation. I would say that I think yesterday President Trump himself actually mentioned that there are some tools in his arsenal that he can use against such a position, which is you know another wave of economic sanctions against Russia.
Was it some kind of threat?
It was not a threat. It was just mentioning that we are a strong party in this equation, and we can do that. So if you remember, during even election campaign, President Trump mentioned that we can push one side and the other side as well. There are different aspects to that, but with Russia, I mean, United States can impose more and more sanctions.
Okay,
And
they already pushed
they
to
might
Ukraine.
be.
Now it is Russia's turn to decide something.
Yeah, I don't want to comment on that, to be honest, because I don't know. But it seems like, Ukraine was pushed. But what is important in Jeddah, the rare earth mineral agreement
Yes,
that was prepared
but
was not signed.
was not.
Was not.
What it
So
means?
I don't know. There was no mentioning on this in the media or in the statements for media from.
But Secretary Rubio said that this agreement is on his way. We need to
Yeah, of course. I mean, this is diplomatic way to put it
explain.
like on hold, whatever. But I think that the mineral. Well, this is a possibility. I'm just also speculating as many others that this mineral agreement, rare earth mineral agreement, might be put on hold until Russia agrees with a ceasefire, arrangement, and then it will be put forward and can be signed, any minute after that. So I think what is important is that both sides, Ukraine and the United States, they actually announced that they are ready to sign this agreement. That the agreement is, written down and finalized. So what is missing is the signatures from both sides. So that can be done easy, right?
Yeah, that's conditions.
So that's my opinion. But let me put it in this way. But there is another option. I mean, Russia's leadership can reject this proposal for the ceasefire,
And what
and
then?
then we see, yeah, for whatever reason, just assume. But then there is another option that Russia agrees on the ceasefire, but under certain conditions. And what might be those conditions, right? So if we think thoroughly about this and that and so on and so forth, probably they might be opting for this kind of option if United States stops delivering the arms to Ukraine. One. Second condition, and that was actually pronounced by Foreign Minister Lavrov in his lengthy interview to three unknown American bloggers yesterday, that he mentioned that what is not acceptable for Russia is the presence of so-called, as he said, so-called peacekeeper forces from Europe. I mean, European forces that are, planned to be
As
in the
I
future.
remember, he said from NATO member countries.
Yeah, of course. I mean, Western European countries are all members of the NATO, so that Russia will be considering it as a NATO presence in Ukraine, and that will be basically having its own consequences, whatever consequences he meant. Yet, forgetting that Ukraine is an independent state and can invite any foreign troop to their soil whenever they want, because these troops are not going to be, not going to be deployed, as far as we understand, all of us, somewhere on the territory of Russia. Of course,
Sure.
it's all are planned to be deployed in Ukraine. So that, I mean, and many some other also preconditions that are related to neutralizing, I would say, the Western involvement into the settlement of this conflict, and of course, like conditions that were many years already in the Russian agenda, such as demilitarization, neutral status of Ukraine, you know, giving up the territories, etc., etc., etc. So that are the conditions that I think Russia might put forward in exchange of the ceasefire, because as we discussed in the previous streams that we had, after ceasefire we have armistice, and after armistice we have, I mean, that's the structure of this kind of agreement. Then we have what we call the stabilization of the situation on the ground. So the ceasefire is the first step. That's why, and it is a very important. We also have to understand, Tornike, that this is all politics. It's a politics, international politics. For President Trump and his administration, is vitally important to deliver on the promises that he made during his campaign and his statements when he became, I mean, after inauguration of the 20th of January, where he was saying that he wants to stop the fighting or killing or death in Ukraine. So, and he must deliver. That's what I feel, and what many people feel in different parts of the world that are observing the whole situation, not only in the United States but also on this European theater. Yeah. So I would say, well, where I also see, and this is my conclusion, that where Russia also can impede U.S. efforts. If you remember lately, like a week ago or so, there was a certain approaches announced towards Iran from the United States side, and that was rejected by the supreme leader Ayatollah Khamenei, as well as the president of Iran, Mr. Pezeshkian. And and I was thinking that there is another possibility for Russia to basically play the Iranian card against the United States in Russia's favor. Why? Because any kind of a prolongation of, and Russia can basically agree on that with Iran, just to help Russia. So Russia can help Iran to prolong this kind of resistance of any kind of offers or opportunities coming from the United States, by this creating the instability in this regard, because like Iranian nuclear program, the whole situation in the Middle East, all the issues related to Israel that are now brewing, etc., after the visit of Prime Minister Netanyahu to the United States, etc. I mean, it seems that it was long ago, but it was very much, in near past. These issues can hamper the agenda of the Trump's administration in the Middle East. So that's where Russia can also play the card, offering the United States, in exchange of certain conditions related to Ukraine, okay, we can talk to Iranians and,
Georgi, there's one question. You mentioned the long interview, almost 2 hours, of Foreign Minister Lavrov.
Yes.
It was some kind of response after this negotiation. Ukraine Russian delegation talk in Riyadh. So, what Lavrov said is there some points we need to seriously consider from his talk?
Tony, I would not say that it was a direct response to the negotiations in El Riyadh. But I think it was another attempt, a propaganda attempt,
Mhm.
to basically have Russian views on the global international affairs and its arrangements to be basically announced on the one hand, and how can I put it? Maybe even you know made it known to the rest of the world. But it was not the first time, because the the structure of this interview went, of course, like the expansion of NATO destroyed all the previous arrangements in the
Russian
security.
narrative, yeah.
Yeah, of course. And then it was retrospected from from the Gorbachev's time till today, and how Ukraine, was also planning to join NATO, and that was unacceptable for Russian Federation. And then anti-Russian elements made a COP in 2014, and that destroyed the relationship of Ukrainians and Russian-speaking citizens of that country. That's why these tensions in Crimea and Donbass. I mean, old stories told in a different way, I would say. But what was interesting, and what I paid really attention to, was I think Lavrov, at least in my view, for the first time, he basically announced a new vision how the Russian Federation views the global affairs in the coming future.
Mhm.
And that is something that is totally different from what we have at the moment. So, according to the Russian Federation, or at least according to its foreign minister, uh, the international community consists of three main superpowers, which is United States, Russia, and China.
Mhm.
Then there are so-called regional powers like in Africa, in Latin America, in Europe, in Asia Pacific, etc., which are countries like India, Brazil, like South Africa, and others that have to bury the the role of the regional policeman, if you wish. And then there are all the rest. So all the rest are the small countries that are, incapable of withstanding any kind of military or any kind of challenges from the big countries. I'm
Like our country, Georgia
like
is.
like Georgia, for example, right? And these countries have to find their way through regional organizations. So they will not. Why we should have like an organization like United States, sorry, United Nations. These countries have to be locked in the regional organizations like ASEAN. I mean, the African Union or Arab League, etc., where there will be one country dominating that organization. I mean, regionally, and then that regional hegemon, I would say, will be representing those small
So
players
he
with the with
they
the
built
defense.
some hierarchy. So bosses,
Yeah, it's
then
it's it's
second,
it's like
then
a
third.
pyramid, it's like a pyramid. So, and there are three bosses that will be deciding the fate of the world. And I mean, this is a classic example how these three so-called superpowers have to divide the global affairs. And this is not only security or not only political relationship. This is also economy and everything else, as you can imagine, right? And I would say no, it doesn't surprise me, but what surprises me is that uh, how unrealistic it sounds from the today's perspective, at least. I cannot see, for example, a country like, let's say, Turkey to delegate its
Rights
sovereignty
or
or
something. Yeah.
rights or whatever to, let's say, to Russia, you
Whoever
know,
to Russia, to United
or
States,
anybody else, you know.
or
So
Germany, or
or
France.
whatever, you know,
Yeah.
whatever, whoever. So, and I would say that it is interesting to listen to that, and it is interesting and very much worrisome for countries like Georgia.
Yeah,
Why?
Georgi, if you agree, we know very well, you and me and people who lived in Soviet Union, that it is very Russian approach. They don't
Of
need
course.
friends; they need only somebody under them, or if somebody is very powerful, okay, we will accept that.
Tonika, this represents actually the new idea of of Yalta. I
Mhm.
mean, Yalta of 1944, when the leaders of three great powers, allied powers, United States, Soviet Union, and Great Britain, gathered and basically redrew the map of the world. But
Yeah,
it was a different time,
yeah,
different circumstances,
sure.
and yeah, and that's why we cannot refer to that practices anymore, because after that the United Nations was created, the whole bench of international, I mean the international law as such was created, and many other institutions that are governing international affairs were created. So these new, let's say, approaches that were announced or pronounced by Mr. Lavrov, they are basically neglecting the whole history of international affairs from 1945 till today, which is not, I would say, positive, to say the least.
Yeah,
So, and for the countries like ours, and for other small countries, even European small countries, this will be a disaster.
but on
Why?
the other hand, Georgi, what can we do? Countries like us, Georgia, we don't want to give up our sovereignty or something, but without, for example, very good friend United States or very good friend Europe, we cannot uh, handle Russia. Yes, so so we are in some kind of very strange situation.
Well, first of all, every country in the current situation, in my opinion, whether it is on the European continent, in Africa, in Asia, or elsewhere, has to think about its own security. I mean, hard security. Those countries need to improve, increase their strategic autonomy from everybody else. This is one. The second is that interest-based alliances
Okay.
should be strengthened as well. And in our region, the interest-based alliances that we are member of should be strengthened. There are two ways I would say that these countries have to look after. First of all, we have strategic alliance agreements with Azerbaijan and Turkey. So these three countries, they are sharing a lot of practical area in the. I mean, a lot of interest in the practical areas.
Yeah,
We are talking
not only
about
border, but a lot of, yeah.
no, of course
Uh,
not. It's a practical areas like the pipeline projects, the railway, the transportation routes, as well as economic ties. We have a significant uh, trade both with Azerbaijan and with Turkey, and therefore, and Turkey being Black Sea country and basically owning these trades, Dardanelles and Bosphorus. I think this is very important ally for Georgia. And this structural issue, I mean, regionally, it proved to be very successful. So developing it and deepening the ties within the region where the interest of one country is also supported, protected, and safeguarded by the other country. That is the way forward for us. Another alliance, which is, partly, which is Guam, which is
Yeah.
Georgia, Ukraine, Moldova, and again Azerbaijan. Basically, those four post-Soviet countries formed this organization. Well, because of the war in Ukraine, there are some setbacks, obviously, etc. But that format should be also developed
Look,
and
these formats, are they still alive? Because I think,
yes, they do. They
yeah.
are. They are. Well, with a low intensity,
Mm.
but they are. But under the conditions that Ukraine is right now, I mean, I'm talking about the war and other things. Um, you know, the strength of this organization is not very much in place right now. But there are some other initiatives that are coming. I'm talking about the security alliances of, Baltic states, Scandinavian states, Ukraine, Poland, Turkey. That also Georgia can be part of it because it's a Black Sea country, and this is the alliance of between the seas, so called.
You know what? This
And
mineral agreement between United States and Ukraine, it will
yes,
be very important Black Sea then. And Black Sea, the importance of Georgia and Georgia part of Black Sea will rise. So maybe
of
it is some
course,
kind of
it is already rising uh, over the roof. It's just like we don't feel it on the eastern part of or eastern shores of the Black Sea. Other than that, if we talk about Romania, Bulgaria, Ukraine, and Turkey, of course, that importance is very much in place. Well, what we need here on the Black Sea, of course, we need a deep sea port, the new one that is under the discussion still. It's not known when the project starts, but it's in place. And then the existing ports has to be also modernized and somehow developed just to serve the purpose. So the transportation route, because look, what we see also in another aspect in the international security and international affairs is that if we'll go back a week before to the meeting in El Riyadh, again between the United States delegation and the Russians, what was discussed? The mineral resources of Russia and the resources of the Arctic. I
yeah.
mean, we are the mankind and its development. We're all approaching the time when the resources and access to the resources and ownership of the resources are becoming more and more important.
And what is very important for us, transportation of these resources. And
Exactly. So we are talking about that in the very first program that we had. If you remember, I said that Georgia is the golden gate to the resource-rich Central Asia, and also one of the routes that connects Europe and China. So resources and the routes to deliver those resources are becoming very important. So these are the two things which Georgia can capitalize on, and avoiding actually any sort of confrontations with the big powers. On the contrary, to be useful for all these big
to be
powers,
useful, yeah.
yes, and balancing them on the ground in the region, and having a very much peaceful policies towards its neighbors, and partners. When I speak about partners, I'm talking about two neighboring countries. Of course, I'm talking about Azerbaijan and Turkey, um, and European Union and the United States, as well as I
Yeah,
would, I would not uh, downgrade good relationship or perspective for good relationship with China as well, with whom we have quite close economic ties, etc. Because China, China is a big, big player, and it's the second largest economy in the world. I mean,
sure.
country
We cannot
country like
forget that.
Georgia, yeah, country like Georgia cannot ignore Chinese factor, not only globally but particularly in our region and related to our
And
country
and
as well.
and one more thing, maybe it's today's last question. Georgia is looking for our place in the international community and how to secure ourselves. And what do you know? I guess today or yesterday should start discussion of law Megobari Act in United States Congress. Does it start or what kind of development it is?
I think I think
And
there were
what it means
several.
for Georgia?
Yeah,
This
uh, I think the several congressmen and senators actually joined
as a co-sponsor, I guess.
yeah, joined the list of co-sponsors. Uh, that means that very soon this legislative act will be put forward on the open discussion floor in the Senate, as far as I understand. Um, what Megobari Act means for Georgia is, of course, it's first of all, it's a support to Georgian people. It is a open support to the sovereignty of this country. And what is important for our country is it is a support to the Georgia's democracy
Okay.
and its democratic path. I'm generalizing these things because, like, if we will jump into details, then we have to talk about it hours and hours. But and that's what is important for a small country like Georgia, when during such a turbulent times, and turbulent times not only globally but also within the uh, power corridors in Washington, this issue is still in the agenda of high level officials in DC, and that is utmost important for the country. I mean, country meaning Georgia. So it's hard to underestimate that.
Okay. Okay. Very interesting times, and let's look to further development. Thank you, Georgi. But
Thank you,
something
Tommy,
else?
and thanks. No, thank you, and thanks to our viewers and audience. So again, please hit the like and subscribe, and stay with us.
See
Goodbye,
you next week, Wednesday.
as always.
Thank you.